All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on what we call progress, and we're going to explore what I'm calling the hidden architecture of success.
And this quote, well, it really sets the stage, doesn't it? We all love to celebrate the wins, the big moments of growth. But what if that's just the glossy surface? What if the very systems creating those wins are building something else in the shadows?
I mean, on the surface, the picture we're shown looks pretty perfect. We see the charts, right, always ticking upward, a clear sign of rising markets. We're constantly hearing about these incredible breakthrough innovations that are supposed to be changing our world for the better. And of course, we see the photo ops. You know the ones, leaders shaking hands, smiling for the cameras, sealing the deals. It all feels like this one big, unstoppable march forward. So the big question is, who's drawing up the blueprints for this march? Well, at the center of it all, we find two really key figures. Two architects who, in very different ways, are shaping the world we live in. First, there's a guy named Adrian Voss. Now, he's the man you almost never see. His influence, though, is absolutely everywhere. He works behind the scenes crafting the financial policies and frameworks that can stabilize an entire economy. He's the one praised for his deep understanding of complexity. He doesn't just play the game, he designs the board. And then you've got his complete opposite, Kale Dravin. You definitely see this guy. He's the public disruptor, the innovator, who's always in the headlines. His tech companies move at lightning speed, totally redefining whole industries and forcing everyone else to either keep up or just get out of the way. He's the face of progress, the one they call a visionary. So you see the difference here. It's night and day. Voss works from the inside, weaving his ideas into policy to make things predictable. Dravin, on the other hand, smashes things from the outside, delivering those flashy, headline-grabbing results. One is the system architect, the other is the market disruptor. But here's the thing, they're both pushing society in the same direction. And if you just look at the data, wow, it seems to be working beautifully. The numbers tell a very clear story, right? Economic growth is up, investment money is flowing in, jobs are being created. These are the kinds of charts that officials love to show off as proof that the system is working exactly like it's supposed to. But, and this is the turn, this is where we have to pause. Because numbers are great at showing results, but they are terrible at showing consequences. So what is being conveniently left out of this perfect picture? It's time to start looking at what gets lost in the shuffle. Because behind all those successful-looking metrics, there's another story, one of unseen consequences. And it's just as real and, frankly, a lot more complicated. And here's the trade-off in plain sight. Adrian Voss promises order, stability, but the reality on the ground is often a loss of local resilience. Kale Dravin promises innovation and speed, but that comes at the cost of huge instability and displacement for a lot of people. In both cases, the brochure and the actual experience are two very, very different things. Okay, let's zoom in on the cost of Voss's precision. When you build a system that's perfectly optimized for global efficiency, the local shops, the local industries, they just can't compete. Wealth starts to get concentrated at the top and then flows out of the community, leaving folks dependent on these huge outside systems they have zero control over. It's not a big dramatic collapse, it's more like a slow, quiet erosion. And at the exact same time, you've got Kale Dravin's brand of disruption, which has no boundaries. He moves so fast that rules and regulations can't possibly keep up. Entire industries get turned upside down, seemingly overnight. Sure, you get efficiency, but the human cost of all that disruption often just gets swept under the rug. Now, you can only hide those costs for so long. Sooner or later, they stop being hidden. They start to bubble up to the surface as the first visible cracks in that shiny facade of success. So let's look at one of Adrian's policies in a developing region. In month 1, everyone's cheering. It's a huge success. Investment is pouring in. But just 2 months later, local economies are starting to fracture, small businesses are failing. By month 6, what started as a success story has created dependency and sparked protests that just won't stop. So how is this explained away? Well, the official response is that it's just a necessary adjustment, or that we're in a transitional period. The language is always so careful, so controlled. It's all about managing public perception and keeping up the illusion that everything is fine, everything is going to plan, even when it clearly isn't. Then you have Kale Dravin's story,
which plays out in a similar way, but it's much more explosive. When local authorities try to set some limits, some rules, he doesn't slow down. He hits the accelerator. He expands even faster and goes to the press, framing anyone who resists him as an enemy of progress. It gets to a point where this one guy seems more powerful than the actual government trying to regulate him.
Now, these might look like two totally separate stories, right? One is about quiet, behind-the-scenes policy, and the other is about loud, public disruption. But when you put them side by side, you start to see they're not separate at all. A single, powerful pattern begins to emerge. And there's the pattern. See, Voss reshapes the system from the inside, which creates these really efficient but also really uneven outcomes. Draven pressures the system from the outside, forcing change that creates a ton of instability. Different playbooks, sure, but both lead to a world where the benefits flow to a very small group and the costs are spread out among everybody else. And this is the shared consequence. This is the heart of the issue. What both of these stories really show us is this massive growing strain on the balance between incredible concentrated power on one side and any kind of real public accountability on the other. And you know what? People are starting to feel this, even if they can't quite put their finger on it. There's this quiet realization dawning on people, and it's built on questions just like these. Why do these massive decisions feel so completely out of our hands? Why do some people seem to be playing by a totally different set of rules? Which brings us all the way back to where we started. Yeah, the rising markets are real. The amazing innovations are real. But what looks like a simple, clear picture of success is actually hiding a much more complicated and, frankly, more unsettling reality right underneath. So the ultimate question isn't whether these systems work or not. We know they work. They're incredibly effective. The real question, the one we need to be asking, is this: who do they truly work for?